This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Prepare yourself for some off-the-cuff book talk as I tackle another middle grade book chapter by chapter. Secret Garden Chapter 7 was really interesting, and I mentioned this in my short about it. I find it really interesting how skillful the author is at weaving narrative with weaving narrative progression with I guess you could say character progression. And what I mean by that is not a lot happens plot wise. Mary Lennox finds the key into the secret garden, and that's kind of it. She interacts with the Weatherman, I think is the name of the old groundskeeper, and the Robin, and finally she finds the key buried. And when she does that, she digs it up and she messes with it, and well, really she doesn't do anything. She finds the key, and then we don't know what happens next. We can assume that she's going to try to open that door, or maybe show the key to somebody. I don't know. Well, I guess she has to find the door first. Is the real truth, isn't it? But none of that really plays into it because she finds the key and then it kind of stops. So that's interesting. And what happens instead is that in the run up to her finding the key, it's almost like she has this mini character arc and this emotional growth that sort of enables her to find the key. Like the narrative isn't okay with her finding the key until she goes through this transformation that we get to see as an audience. And she has this really interesting conversation with Martha, and they talk about whether or not Mary actually likes herself, and whether she expects other people to like her. And when she comes to the realization that she's been pretty shabby, let's say, she's been a pretty shabby person, she realizes that probably not a lot of people like her. And Martha kind of reassures her that, hey, if you can learn to like yourself, and if you can learn to love yourself, sort of, then you will probably see a lot of these issues that you're having clear up. And in fact, it gets to the point where she basically says, you probably don't like other people very much because you don't like yourself very much. And she doesn't say projecting, but, perhaps you're projecting onto others the disdain you have for yourself. And maybe if you give yourself a little bit of a break and you learn to like yourself, you can also learn to like others and open up to them. And I found that to be a very interesting concept, and I was very surprised that it went there. It's kind of kind of like a new age self-help kind of thing. It seems like a very new idea, but I guess it's not. I mean, there are sayings like there's nothing new under the sun, so maybe this self-love or self-like idea runs back farther than I know. But it's interesting to see it framed here in that way. And I don't quite know what to do with that, other than I do think it's interesting that when Mary is having these interactions with these people outside of herself, it's helping her to recontextualize how she sees them, how she values them, how she kind of values herself. She values herself less than she did before, but she's also a more worthwhile person. I think she feels more worthwhile. She feels healthier, better, stronger. She's growing, and I'm sure she's seeing growth in herself, and she appreciates that. But at the same time, those experiences she's going through are helping her to understand, appreciate, and approach other people outside of herself, people who are beneath her, as not so much beneath her, but as, kind of in a different station. And she hasn't reached that full level of maturity yet, but at least she has a liking for them as opposed to just a expectation that they will bend to her will, which is not great. I mean, it's a great progression, but it's not great how she had felt at one point. So that's really interesting to me. And I find it interesting that, sorry, her name is really hard for me to remember. Hodgson Burnett, Frances Hodgson Burnett. It's really surprising to me that Burnett is like tying the plot progression to like the emotional growth and the emotional progression of Mary. That's how it feels to me. And it feels a little mechanical and dry to say it like that, but I think if you think about the book, that is kind of what's going on as she's opening up as a person, as her heart is softening, as her heart is opening, as her mind is opening to these other people and these other ideas and these other ways of being. She is being drawn further into the narrative, almost as if it's on purpose, which of course this is a fictional book written by an author, so it is on purpose, but almost as if we can see as an audience that as she's making these changes, as these transformations are happening within her, that those things are equipping her to deal with what's going to come next in the narrative. She mentions that did she say she says she thinks she loves Martha's mother, or likes her very much, even though she's never seen her or met her, or spoken to her. And she says the same thing of Dickon. And Martha kind of has a funny reaction to that, to, both of them. But she says, I think you're right about that. You can like a person without seeing them or knowing them or meeting them. And it's because of all I've told about you, or all I've told you about them, rather. And I thought that was kind of an interesting turn. And it's just, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is this book about and what's going on here. And as I continue through it, I continue to find it more and more fascinating and interesting, and I'm really curious to see where it goes, and how what Mary's being equipped with now is going to help her later on in the book, because I'm sure it will. And I'm curious to see the kind of person she's going to turn into and who she'll become through this kind of subdued journey that she's on. She's on a journey, and it's kind of a journey of self-discovery and of growing up, but it's not like super explicit. It's not like a hero's journey. It's not a coming of age story. It's more a becoming aged story, I guess. I don't know. I don't quite know how to say it. I don't have the full scope of the entire book to say definitively what it is one way or another. Although, just a quick note, she is 10 by now. We know that she states that she's 10 years old, because supposedly the key for the secret garden that she finds at the end was buried 10 years ago. And she remarks, well, that's how old I am. And the key that she found looked like it had been buried for a very long time. So we're assuming it's the key for the secret garden, which of course she still has to find. Although it's interesting, and it is interesting that the Robin was instrumental in her finding it. So it's kind of interesting. Feels a little fantastical, a little magical. And I don't know if this book defies genre, or if it has a little bit of fantasy in it, or if it has a little bit of, would that be surrealism? I don't even know all the different genres, but it's definitely, entertainingism. I'd love to know what you thought about Secret Garden Chapter 7, the whole book, or the book as a whole, or the book as a whole. And I look forward to hearing that. I hope you enjoyed that. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. I invite you to comment, ask questions, and share your thoughts with me. It's always more fun when you're part of the conversation. Until next time, keep reading, be well, and do good things. Visit mjmunoz.com for more of my work and help me build up the Fortress Fiction.